Cool. So, guys, today we got Lance Knigge on. He was racing 10.5 this weekend at Bradenton at the World Series of Pro Mod. His car, it's a Nova?
Yep, 67 Nova.
67 Nova, and it's pretty much well known for hanging the front wheels for 660 feet. Or actually not even all of it, because it starts wheeling at about 60 feet, it looks like, and then wheelies all the way until the chutes are out, probably another 100 feet past the finish line.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
So that's probably where I'm sure most people have seen that video now. It had thousands of shares from what I saw.
Yeah.
Were you unable to tame that down? Because it seemed like it got more aggressive.
Yeah, we're trying to run a number, and we were on a different tire than normal this week, and so it was a little bit of a struggle getting the 4-link right, but typically we can and couldn't do it this week. So, we were trying to go fast and tune the chassis at the same time, so it made it get a little exciting.
So it's Outlaw 10.5, right? Or Pro 10.5, what is it?
They call it Pro 10.5 here, but I think that was just more around the event.
To make that event make sense.
The class is based around PDRA Pro Street. That's the rules we used, and Tyler and PDRA were involved in that, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, so whatever it wants to be called. But yeah, this weekend was Pro 10.5.
What are like the general rules then? Because it's tire based for the most part. It's a slick tire, but it's not quite a big tire.
So, out here racing's a lot different than what I'm used to being from Wyoming, and they can have a lot more rules, and that is by far the most regulated class I've ever been in. Like we have, There's wheelbase rules, engine placement rules. They even started doing a weight bias rule, so we had to have at least 53% weight on the nose this weekend. You have your base weight based off a power adder, and there's a lot of rules. Has to be a steel roof and quarters car. I mean, there's a lot.
I'd imagine the weight bias on the nose didn't really affect you at all.
Yeah.
You kind of needed more on the nose.
I do, yeah. So they do it off your base weight. And with our base weight, I was 50-50 because my car was a little bit heavy because I already had weight in the nose. I got to...
Do they do that tech in between every round then?
They do, yeah. They even
check the weight base and all that, not just when you first show up, like every... cow.
They even,
like
after
a nightmare.
And like the 4th round of qualifying, I think it was, we had to take the front clip off the car and stuff down there, and they measured our engine placement. And I've never done that before. I've never had to tech like that through an event, so it was pretty crazy.
That is weird. I mean, it's tough because it's a cool class, but that kind of stuff limits people venturing into it just because of that kind of tech. And John Sears and those guys obviously know what they're doing, and they're probably the best tech crew around, but it's so tough to venture into a class like that because I wouldn't even think to start measuring and figuring out all that stuff to join a class that I don't see raced all that much here.
Yeah, it's cool because like what makes me appreciate that is you look at like qualifying and stuff, and everybody gets so tight. I'm used to races where when we show up, we know what we're going to do pretty much. We know where we run, and then we also know where everybody else runs, and we can kind of, as long as we do our job, we can tell where we're going to place or sit with everybody. And here, I mean, it is so tight that reaction times make a difference and stuff. So,
well, that class was what, like 4.0 to... Or did people get into the threes in that?
Yeah, there were some 390s, and then I think the bump spot was like a 413 or something like that. So.
Yeah, so 2 numbers separating the entire field.
Yeah,
that's like as tight as Pro Mod was a little bit tighter.
Yeah, they're pretty tight.
But that is pretty crazy. That's like Pro Mod Mini, basically. That tight of a class. But the car that won seemed like a full-blown Pro Mod looking car.
Yeah, they're all steel roof and quarters and wheelbase and all that stuff. But the craziest thing about 10.5 is the difference in people's budget and their programs. I mean, when we go to a race, usually I'm proud of how well our programs ran and how well put together we are. And then we go to stuff like this. We're racing guys that have a lot different pocketbook and have been racing a lot longer. And I have what I feel like is a big trailer, but it's still one that you could pull with a pickup if you want. And then I show up here and everybody's got stackers and toter homes, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they kind of park people kind of based off of your rig as well.
Yeah.
So by class too, but then when you show up with like a smaller rig, you kind of get pushed into the grass, which is normal when they have 1,000 cars racing for a weekend.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to be in the grass.
Yeah, that was us this week.
I feel like also you having a turbo car is different than a lot of these classes have, because even like on the property all weekend, turbo cars are few and far between.
Yeah,
across the board.
10.5, I think there was like 4 or 5, and it was crazy because you're right, man. It's turbo cars have kind of fallen off, and there was quite a few in our class this weekend, but especially in Pro Mod, there was hardly any of them. There's a few, and that's about it.
It's like two turbo cars in Pro Mod, and one of them I don't even think made the field.
Yeah, probably.
And just Mark Mickey, but he went 13 mile an hour faster than everyone else. So.
Yeah, and then Todd Moyer doing his thing, and I don't really know why that is. I mean, turbo cars, they're definitely harder to make work. Like, I've learned that the hard way. That's all I've ever raced is turbo cars, but I've heard that from a lot of people that have made the jump to blowers and stuff. And
what is your deal? Big block?
Yep, big block Chevy.
Yeah, and then turbo 400 in there.
Yep. Yeah.
It's kind of the winning combo.
I think so.
Kind of the sweet spot of reliability, and you can also lean on it. But what's the PB in that 4.0?
Yeah, been 4.0s, and I've always struggled with chassis issues, and I started racing this car like 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, the first 4-link car ever. I knew the basics of 4-link. I used to race a Fox body and stuff, and I've learned a lot, man. And coming into this event, that's why I struggled so much this week, is because I think I was a little too confident of my ability to get a handle on it. Normally, I race on a 34.5-inch tall tire, and this one being a 33-10.5, it had its struggles, and I thought I could overcome it a little quicker with our testing, and I just couldn't get it. Every round we were changing the 4-link, trying to make it not wheelie, and when you make a 4-link change, the car doesn't always go straight, and so we're struggling with that.
Well, it seemed like at least you had the problem of it trying to not wheelie versus the problem of it just roasting the tires off every pass.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I have a problem, I prefer the wheeling problem to the car keeps spinning problem, because then that's like a whole different thing to chase.
Yeah, and that was kind of, it was a hole in my strategy for the weekend. When I go to the races, I always try to not do exactly what you said, knock the tires off, and so all week, once we got it to go down the track, that was our goal, is make it down every single time.
No data there. Once you knock the tires off, you're kind of just like, I guess I try again.
Yep.
And then you kind of start blaming the starting line or something too, because you don't know if it's the prep or what you're doing, or kind of sends you for a loop every time it does that.
Yeah, and this one, having qualifiers, it was a chip draw race, but you had to be in the top 16 to qualify.
Yeah.
And, my strategy of making it down every time, everybody else, with 5 qualifiers, it was like a home run derby. So every time everybody would go up, everybody's trying to qualify, which is what you're supposed to do. But the style of racing that I do, normally I don't have a problem being in a qualifying position, but here, everybody doing that, you'll have a car that'll go out and run a 390 and then knock the tires off for 3 passes, and I never knocked the tires off. So I should have swung for it a little harder to qualify. Like the first round, I think only 3 cars made it down the track. It was the craziest thing ever. We're sitting in the stands watching it, and it's like, man, we should be there.
Yeah. I know. It was an interesting one to watch, because I was watching live, and it also is weird that they only do 16 cars in that class versus 32 in Pro Mod, and I guess only 16 in like the B classes, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Pro Mod's kind of the A class, like the top tier, but then they only do 16 for you, so I don't know how many cars were trying to qualify.
Supposed to be 32. That's we never seen like an official list come out, but I think only like 24 cars showed up. So that was it was different. There was a lot of people wanting into it, but it was pretty cool because Wes and everybody at Drag Illustrated did a good job at just not letting people buy their way into it. It's all people that have ran 10.5, so that was pretty cool.
You had to be like invited legitimately to all of it, or how to like they had to send you an invitation to come.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so that makes it nice, because you want people that actually can run a car like an actual program, not just like can slap some 10.5 tires on it and call it a day.
Yeah,
but it's weird because I haven't heard much about that class until I saw it this weekend. I don't know if it's just me not paying attention, or if it's become better in the last like 2 years, or probably just me not paying attention.
Honestly, man, 10.5's fallen off the face of the earth. I'm not real up on the East Coast stuff, what's been in the past, but I know like Cecil and stuff they've always ran 10.5, or that's kind of where it started, and 10.5 it's a nostalgic class. It kind of went away, and I feel like now, especially with Wes and everybody at Drag Illustrated putting this race on, I think that it's going to start coming back. And the huge wheelie video we did, I think, is going to bring a lot of attention to that class. And Callie Mills, she did a big wheelie too with another turbo car, and people like that stuff. And Pro Mod is it's exciting to watch, and it's really cool. But what's cool about 10.5 is the guys that are out there that have 69 Camaros or 67 Novas or Mustangs or whatever, they can all relate to these cars. So they see them, they see them go fast or do wheelies and everything, and it looks just like the car that they have. So they're drawn to it. It
looks a lot more True Street like when you see those cars. And a lot of people really love the wheelie videos.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you about your wheelie bars, if they get pretty beat up from that, or what do you have to do? You have ceramic bearings in your in your wheelie bar wheels or something fancy?
We inspect them a lot. It would make sure they're not busted up, but I've broken them.
180-mile wheel speed on a little wheel like this.
Yeah, and we've tore them up before, but this weekend the wheelie video that's going everywhere where the car came off the ground, that one it got out of hand, and it bent the upper bars pretty bad, and so we ended up straightening them out using my razor and jack stand, and then we put some braces on them and stuff. So got a handle on that, but yeah, man, those things take a beating.
I don't know the first thing about wheelie bar tuning. When I see those guys on the starting line cranking them, I'm like, hey, they're probably doing it wrong. They might be cranking it backwards. Who really knows?
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I know the joke is always like half the people doing it don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about wheelie bars. I'm a radial tire guy. I don't try to stay away from them.
Yeah. If you ask 5 different people how to do that, you're probably going to get 5 different answers too. And it's a package deal is what I always tell everybody, because we get that a lot, all the wheelie videos that I have and stuff, my car always goes straight, and people notice that a lot. And I hear a lot of people, come to me and ask me how I do it, or see comments on the internet. And, it's just learning how to make all that stuff work together is huge.
Yeah, it's interesting because I seeing them actually work, and then when you see like across the board, there's so many different styles of wheelie bars. Like even the way that like the Copo Camaros do it is like not even mounted to the diff. They're like high mounted, weird deal. And then we have import racers down here that just have like a single wheel offset or something like that because they try to just twist. Yeah, I don't know. I've always wanted to try a wheelie bar on a car because it seems fun.
Yeah.
Like what you do seems like a lot of people would like to do that.
Yeah.
But how many people would have probably lifted instead of let the car grab third gear still not touching down? How well can you see?
This car, when I built it, so my Mustang that I raced before, it would wheelie some as a Fox body, small tire car on a 275. And when it would wheelie, I remember that because I was like sitting on the floor of that thing and not being able to see. And I mean, it was just a whole different thing. And so when I built this car, I put a Race Tech seat in it, and I put it as high as I could. And, I had that in mind some, but it's also just a lot more comfortable. Thank God I did, because this thing likes to wheelie, so I can see pretty well.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Yeah.
I've been in like sand dunes where some of the guys that wheelie, like Blake Wilkie, they have a floor clear piece of plexiglass, so he can see through the floor while he's wheeling.
Yeah,
you're not far off from needing something like that.
There were some jokes being said about that this weekend. Yeah.
Like just be able to look through, maybe a couple holes in the firewall.
Yeah,
questionable.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was cool to see that blower car win the whole deal though, because that thing seems really badass. That what is it, a GTO?
Yep.
That thing's sick.
Yeah, that guy earned it. He was going fast all weekend, and we were watching, kind of see where we're at with everybody else, and watching them make passes, and he went fast, and he went down the majority of the time. Yep, he did a good job.
There's something that seems, I like turbos, but lately there's something that seems real special about a big blower like that.
Yeah.
When the blades just open wide open and you don't have to bump in or anything like that, it seems kind of nice.
Yeah, they're intimidating to be next to. It's pretty cool. That's a cool part of them too. And, blowers, I think that, I really don't know what's driving the big push with them. It seems like there's a lot more blowers, but I don't know if there's some strides being made with technology with them or what, but all of a sudden there is a lot more blowers, and Yeah, you're right. They're cool.
I don't know if it's just EFI maybe is pushing it harder, or people just kind of getting a better handle on it, because it's the same blower that people have been running forever.
Yeah.
They're like those old ass whatever people rebuild, those like diesel blowers from like a train or something. Yeah. It's like nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Like turbo technology has come so far, but we're still a little ways from being where the blower guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know enough about blowers to say, but there are definitely some blowers out there that make a lot of power. That's, when I went to turbos, I've had a lot of blower stuff like drag boats and street cars and everything. And nothing ever makes power like what my turbo stuff has, and I don't know how those guys are doing it. I know there's the screw blowers, high helix, there's some different designs and everything, but you're right. The technology I think is pretty old, but they're making it work, and fuel injection and stuff. Last time I ever ran that stuff, it was always mechanical, and I don't know if they're all EFI or how they're doing it, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Australians with their blower cars are often, well, some of them are now switching to not mechanical injection because the EFI is easier to control. But they sell like boxes that you put injectors in. You put like 15 injectors, like actual EFI style injectors in a box, and it looks like mechanical.
Really?
Where all the lines go to the blower hat and stuff.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's kind of just like cheatered up looking, still looks mechanical and old school, but then you get like all the fanciness of clogging injectors. Have fun to it. Yep. Is your car on methanol then, I'd assume?
Yep, it's on methanol.
What kind of power does that car make?
So it's got 2088 turbos on it. They're Precision Gen 2 88 turbos. I think they're rated around like 1600 horsepower, and that's what I always figure is
each.
Each. Yeah. So I think it makes a little north of 3,000.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables in that, but I think some are right in that range.
Because I got 186.
Really?
So, so here the 288s is quite a big step up.
Yeah, in like the class racing, like what we did here, or even like no prep kings and everything, there's 88s are the small ones. Everybody else runs 94s, 98s, and so when people ask me that, I have this tendency to always be like, oh, they're just 288s, but you're right. I mean, that's a lot of turbo, and they make a lot of horsepower.
It's a ton of turbo, especially on methanol, no intercooler, big block.
Yeah.
People put them on LSs, and they struggle to kind of get that size turbo lit.
Yeah, just one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the converter is probably a nice reason to go blower. I feel like you don't have to be as spot on with your converter.
Yeah.
As with a turbo car where it's so finicky to get it right and to get it to spool and build boost and actually leave.
Yeah, that's definitely there is a lot of work behind the converter, and I've tried a couple of different ones, and I've had really good luck with Pro Torque and M&M, and you're right. The turbo cars I feel like are a little more finicky on that side.
That black magic going on in there.
Yeah.
Do you have a lockup on that thing?
No, I used to, and I never used it, so I took it off there because the weight of the clutches in the converter, I was told, might be affecting it. So we tried a non-lockup, and that's what we stuck with. But yeah, pretty cool.
Turbo cars always seem to fly.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, as soon as you lock up, they seem to fly pretty well.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then with the wheelie issues that I've had, I mean, this car's kind of always done that because the way that the chassis was built with engine placement and stuff. But I never locked it up, so that's why I kind of steered away from it. And when I put it together, I was like, oh yeah, I want to lock up, and I want all this stuff, and because I wanted to experience that, but the car just won't handle it. So
yeah, it's also you could still lock it up, but 8th mile racing, that lockup is like a real small window versus quarter mile. You're just like, oh, here's the time. Out back, you just kind of do it when it's needed. Yeah. But you only have that short tuning window to make things work.
Yeah.
It's 8th mile racing, 10.5, all things I don't really know anything about.
Yeah. Well, the 8th mile stuff, it's kind of good you said that because that's something that a lot of people I feel like misunderstand that, don't drive cars like these because, like even this weekend I've seen so many comments where everybody's talking about how I lifted at half track or, making jokes about it being 8th mile racing. And, the thing about 8th mile racing with these cars is everything is so fast now that at the 8th mile, it's not fair to say you're out of control, but, that needs to be the finish line, because after that, there's so many variables that can affect it. Like a 67 Nova isn't meant to go, 230 miles an hour or whatever it would go through the quarter. And the other thing about it, that is something that people that don't go as fast as these cars would never realize, is how quick that last eighth mile is. So you're not missing a lot. Like we raced quarter mile one weekend just testing. I kind of did it just for fun, honestly. We were at a bracket race, and the last eighth mile is like you blink and it's over with. So it doesn't really change it a whole lot, except for that speed.
And you're just hoping things don't go wrong, because now you're gaining another 40 miles an hour or whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah.
30 miles an hour. What does your car go in the eighth? 190 something?
Yeah, mid 190s. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're already going faster than my car goes in the quarter in the eighth. Yeah. So people don't realize that. Like, I get it when you're talking like a 560 car. Like, all right, you can run that thing out the back.
Yeah.
But when you're talking like a 4.0 car, touching threes, like there's no reason to run that thing out the back.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is that way too. Like when you get to the eighth, and then there's a lot of things that again, people don't realize that don't go that fast, is, you're the potential for something bad to something bad to happen. It happens so much more quickly down there, and there's a way more potential. Even things like the motor, those motors, when you have an engine that is making, 1,500 horsepower or whatnot, it's a little more reliable even when it's an LS or something. And these other engines, north of 3,000 horsepower. And I mean, some of these guys are even probably making 4,500, and, the longevity isn't there, and the potential for an engine failure is higher. So
very few LSs that like being pushed like that out the back.
Yeah.
Not many will handle that. You see heads start to lift and crack, and just engines just catastrophically explode. I like making fun of the LS guys a little bit for that, because they're great until you get to that window, and then it's just like always a failure.
Yeah.
And they become unreliable. Even the baddest block you can buy, they still just shatter the head right off of it.
Really? Dang.
And then you build like you probably have a fairly simple big block, I'd imagine.
Yeah, my engine is old. Like it's I don't even know when it would have ever been built. So like it started life as a Proline engine, but definitely not while I've had it. And when I called Proline, they're like, "Man, we haven't built one of those in years." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And actually,
Proline engine is like, what block is it? Is it just like a big M block, or is it like is it billet block? It's
a cast aluminum Keith Black block.
Okay.
So man, just guessing, and again, I have no idea. It's probably from the 90s, like my engine is, and it's a Keith Black block. It's got a Winberg billet crank in it, and then I just use cast aluminum Brodix Big Duke heads and cast aluminum intake manifold. My engine's nothing special, and but it works. It's reliable, and I know it. So
that's what's crazy about those, is like the serviceability on those cranks is like so many passes before you have to touch that. And even my 2J, I mean, I've bent the crank in 150 passes, making 1,500 horsepower.
Yeah,
stock crank, but still, I mean, it's a forged stock crank, but they like to bend.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that Winberg crank. Actually, I was just talking to somebody about that this week. That especially with blower guys, they're always having to have their cranks checked and replace them and break them and all that good stuff. And man, my crank, I've had my engine for like 6 years between two different cars, and I've never even checked my crank. It's always straight. I've checked that, but yeah, I've never had it mag checked or anything. No need to even
look at it. Just ignore it. Sometimes they get like a hairline crack in them, and that's where they start to fail. Because I've talked to Red, who races LDR a little bit, and like that's what got him on his crank, was just like a little hairline crack after like 4,000 passes or something stupid, though.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's just like 4,000 passes at like probably 2,800, 3,000 horsepower.
Yeah,
and handling that kind of power. But again, turbo car.
Yeah, they're easy on stuff. Yeah.
LDR is kind of that other class where they're true-looking street cars. They don't look like pro mods quite yet.
Yeah.
But they're still going 390s on a radial, so it's kind of like, I would say it's almost like the radial tire equivalent, I guess, of your class.
Yeah. Yeah, LDR is a cool class. I'd like to run LDR too. And, you're right, it's real similar. The rules are a little bit tighter, but man, those guys fly in there. It's crazy.
Tight class, but it's interesting you're talking about cars spinning going down the track because that's always the debate of like, oh, radial tire cars, the first three rounds is just spin, spin. But then the same thing happens on a slick tire race. So it's kind of like, I guess maybe people are just making a lot of power.
Yeah, and I think, like what really did that this weekend for us on a slick tire is everybody was trying to hit that home run, and you're right. And it's funny that you say that too, because there was a lot of jokes on the internet about how we looked like radio guys. I seen it on all the live feeds and everything. Yeah. And, I always try and stay away from that because of that, Yeah.
I like both style racing. I like watching Pro Mod. I don't hate big tires. I don't care to do it. It's just I don't hate big tires. I'm starting to get more and more interested, I guess, maybe because it's starting to become more interesting, or maybe because the promotions become better. I don't know if I'm just kind of suckered in by really good promoting and really good events that Wes and those guys do, and then it always being at Bradenton kind of trick you into it maybe. Yeah. But then there's big radial racing in South Georgia, which is like 6 hours from here. So kind of is all right here anyways. You in Wyoming, what kind of racing and where do you have to go for racing? Is it only Bradenton? Yeah. 30 hours away?
32 hours, man. Yeah. No, we've got a little local track that's about 50 miles from my house, but my car's a little bit too much for that. I went there the year before last, and we had an accident there. I went off the track and hit some stuff, and that
out
one.
The back?
No, it was like we probably went out about 60 foot, and my dipstick tube came out, but the surface is just not meant for a car like mine, so I couldn't recover from it. Instead of just knocking the tire off and being able to gather it up, there was no traction. And those guys have some local stuff that's really fun. It's Central Wyoming Motorsports. It's pretty neat. There's another guy doing some street racing stuff there in Casper, like where I live. It's an organized, just heads up race on a concrete road that's pretty cool. But,
isn't Wyoming becoming one of those states where everybody's going to right now?
Man, some areas, and it's changing like everywhere.
Because Florida's like that right now. Yeah. Especially Bradenton, where everybody in the world seems to be moving to this area. And I've heard the same about Casper.
Yeah. Yeah, Casper's grown a lot. I don't know where they're all coming from because I don't really have anything to see that with. But yeah, it's growing a lot, and I think there's a lot of people drawn to those areas because we're not like Colorado. We have a lot of people coming from Colorado because of the politics side of that and all that good stuff. But it's growing. Our racing, I really hope to see it grow. We've got that Central Wyoming Motorsports. It's an old track that used to be there that they're leasing from the town it's in, and they're trying to get money together to build the track, and hopefully racing takes off a little more over there. But other than that, man, we have to go all the way to Billings, and then we were going to Bandimere, but now with that being closed,
Yeah, that one's unfortunate. How far from Bandimere were you?
4 hours.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You're probably next closest would be like Pueblo, which kind of same deal where probably too much car for Pueblo.
Honestly, I like Pueblo. They just don't have a lot of events. We're going to race there a little bit. Actually, I think next month they've got a big like cash days or something that's on the front side that we're going to do. But I do a lot like Oklahoma and everything because of that. And I'm looking at keeping the car out here somewhere. I just have to figure out how to make that work, financially and logistically and all that crap. But
leave it down in Florida. I know somebody needs like a service like that where they can just park a bunch of rigs like in some bay somewhere that people can
that'd be cool.
Keep in the area, because I've heard this from so many people where like, my state doesn't really have much racing, so I'm kind of like, just get rid of the car and get a side-by-side or a boat or something and call it a day. And you probably have a short racing window to begin with.
Yeah, it's like, usually we'll have events when Denver is running May through like, October or so, September. And then we always have an event in Vegas that we used to do. But
that's another track that's so nice, but they just don't do enough.
Yeah.
Like their potential is there, but they don't like opening the doors because of the size of that venue.
Yeah.
It's tough. I know I was talking to the guys at 1320, and they went there for the streetcar nationals or something like that.
Yep.
And they just said every car blew up.
Yeah, that race,
every single car.
Yeah, that race has had its hurdles, and you know, I remember which one they were at because I think it was like 2 years ago. They've been to a couple of them that we've been at because I used to do that race.
It's like SCSN or something like that.
Yeah, Streetcar Super Nationals. Yeah, and they. Man, I really don't know what drove it. I think it's late in the season and everybody's there trying to do a home run too, you know, and it's really good prep, and some of those guys don't race on it. So like the LS stuff, you know, where the guys are pushing the limit, then they get to something where it's stuck and, you know.
High altitude, and then all of a sudden you're down another 200 horsepower trying to make the same power you were making at sea level.
Yeah.
Because it's fairly high altitude there from what I remember.
Yeah, I think the DA is normally like 3,500, 4,000 there in Vegas, you know, when we race there, but yeah.
It's a great facility, and they've had decent prep. I think one of your videos was from there, right, Wheelie?
Yeah, I raced there in October, and then actually we're looking at going there next week. There's a race called Muscle Cars at the Strip. It's this huge, you know, like a car show, autocross, drag racing. There's a lot of stuff, and they've got a small tire race, and we're also thinking about maybe just going on a big tire. There's a big tire race, but it doesn't pay like small tires, so we'd use it to test, but. You know, thinking about that, and you know, it is crazy though that the guys out in Vegas don't do more events like that, because like you said, it's a huge venue. It's really nice. Yeah. Everybody likes going to Vegas. So.
Well, it's the same as like ZMAX in North Carolina. The same owners, they own both ZMAXs, and it just doesn't do much. Like you go to like a Bradenton, and they can open all the time because it's like a small, lean and mean crew.
Yeah.
But then to open a massive facility like that for a weekend, if you're not going to get, you know, 10,000 people in the gate, you're already losing money. So I guess that's probably their thought behind it. But then it just makes the track, like, it makes the local racers kind of just like meh.
Yeah.
They don't build up their cars because they have no reason to. There's no testing tune every Thursday.
Yeah.
Like we have the luxury of having.
Yeah, and I think, you know, management comes into that stuff too, because like every time we've ever been in Vegas, it blows me away how rude the people are there, which, you know, I don't know if they just don't like heads up racing, because, you know, they've got their guys that are there every single week, but I wish that tracks like that would be more open to events, because like, you know, even this 10.5 deal, you know, there's a lot of potential with it, and big tire racing, like you said, and they just don't have anything like that, so it's kind of crazy.
Well, even like you need a John Sears to come and enforce the rules, because it's great to, you know, host a 10.5 race, but if you don't have somebody to come and enforce those rules, it's quickly going to be probably completely different than the 10.5 race down here.
Yeah.
And that would make it probably a weird deal too, because you can host those races anywhere, but if those rules... Like, if you need it that tight, it's hard to really have that race.
Yeah.
I don't know how somebody would be able to just, like, host a small 10.5 race.
Yeah.
Maybe they could, and people would just self-regulate.
Yeah, I mean, like the tech stuff, weight's probably the biggest one. And, you know, the stuff with PDRA, they can make all of the rules that they have because there's so many racers out here willing to do it and to, you know, build cars around it. And they've been doing it forever, too, you know, so they've earned that. And like the race that we used to do out there, Streetcar Super Nationals, it had a 10.5 class, and the rules are a lot more open, but there was still parity. Like, you know, you could have a pro mod in that class, but there was minimum weights, and you know, there's weight penalties for the things that make those cars different. So it's cool because it opens it up to everybody else. So I think it's possible, but you know, you're right. You gotta have something consistent, because that's probably the biggest thing that I see with class racing where I'm at is, you know, people will be bending the rules, and then everybody wants to complain about the other guy, and you know, it's kind of crazy. So,
and having rules that tight, you're gonna hurt car count inevitably at a smaller race that can't afford to put up so much money.
Yeah,
you know, because even this race, you probably got paid for number one qualifier as well.
I don't think our class
Not
did, but Pro Mod did. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Pro Mod did. I figured they'd give like a little bit maybe for 10.5, because it's cool because it makes you shoot for it. Then you're not just kind of like, let me just try to get in the field. Like the Pro Mod guys are actually going for it. I figured they'd do the same for you guys. They need to start doing that for our class, because we have so many sandbaggers.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a mosquito in here. We have so many sandbaggers in our class that like because they split it into 3 fields.
Yeah.
And then people slow their car down to get into the B class. instead of run it out into the A class. And there kind of is the debate of, do you do blind qualifying? Do you do pot to win for round one, like Q1, like if you're a number one qualifier? Like, how do you make that work? The chip draw is an interesting one. That's a tough one to do, though, because you have to go up there every round. Yeah. It slows down the race a lot often.
Does. Yep, it does.
But they seem to get through it quick. Normally, whenever we do chip draws at our races, nobody ever shows back up.
Really?
For the second chip, they just forget.
Oh, yeah, I think
they're just waiting for the ladder. They're like, oh, okay, like a ladder's coming, like no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, the chip draw, I think it adds a cool part of it because, you never know. Like, with qualifying, you're right, you're motivated to be in a certain position, and with chip draw.
Yeah.
But usually, like, when we do chip draws, it's always like an all-run field, right? You don't qualify to do a chip draw. So that part was kind of different this weekend. But I like chip draw races, but the qualifying for a chip draw is a little different.
It is weird because, like with qualifying, like, I know I don't want to be number 16.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, you're
going to
race the first.
Yeah, like I know how the ladder flips. I'm trying to avoid being 16 qualifier. I don't even want to be at the bottom half of the field. I'm trying to get to that top part. But then you do that chip draw and, like, Lyle Barnett versus Mark Mickey, like that's like a rough first race for everyone across the board because it's two people that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
End up getting chip drawed when they could be in like round 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Even a 32 car field's a lot too, because that means one more pass for all those guys. Mm-hmm. Like if you make it to the finals, you had to do a whole extra pass instead of just like a 16 car field. But
yeah,
I guess those guys can probably handle doing multiple passes without worry.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and this one, man, coming into this week, we kind of knew that. Like that race in Vegas is one of the only other races I do where we qualify, and there's testing days and there's qualifying days, and 4 rounds of qualifying, and at this race there was 5, and it becomes like a war of attrition, and that's what guys don't get too. So somebody can go out there and qualify number 1. And you show up for first round and, they broke the motor or they, their car has something else going on with it. And, so that's a big point of these races too, is you have to race smart, and you can't go beat your car all day long or all week long in qualifying and then go try and do eliminations like you said, because then it does matter. Like one round, like in Vegas this year, I was entered in 2 classes. There's a class called Pro Street that was like you had to be 2,900 pounds no matter what, power out or whatever, steel roof and quarters. And, I think that was about the only rules. And then we were in Big Tire No Time, which is just like what it sounds, just whatever you want to do.
So they were allowing you to show times and not show times?
Yep. Yeah. Let's see here. I don't remember if we showed the boards in that one or not.
Because some classes or events don't care much about that, but it's always funny when
you're
the real no time guys don't like that.
Yeah, no, and again, we don't have enough racers out west to do that, and but yeah, it was crazy, man. We made it. We tested, we did qualifying, and we skipped a couple of qualifiers because I was in 2 classes, so we would have had 8 qualifying runs. That's too much. So and they were chip draw classes too. So we show up and make it. I think I was in the 3rd round of both classes, and my intake valve seat broke loose in my head and sucked up into it. So we were set to win. Like, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but I genuinely feel like we had the fastest car in both of those classes. Definitely in Pro Street, I think everybody else is running 440s, 430s, and I don't remember what we went that day, like 409 or 407 or something.
Yeah, so you were the car to beat, basically, at that point.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people that were like, he broke.
Yeah. And I mean, there were some guys, too, that, earlier in the rounds, like a friend of ours from Montana, Mike Dowling, he was in that Pro Street class with us, and me and him go rounds. I've been fortunate to win against him. I don't know how I do it every time, but it's like we pull this rabbit out of the hat, but he was the guy that could beat me, and he had transmission problems, you know. So it's a war of attrition when it comes to qualifying, but that's a perfect example of just trying to race smart.
And some points at that deal, you got to decide which class do you want to go for, which class pays better. You kind of might have to bow out of one, or if it's worth it to ditch one class, because I mean, I've even been with people that are racing 2 cars in 2 different classes, and then that's like a whole nother problem in itself. Kind of turn over 2 cars for multiple passes, and then once you get to like the semifinals, you're like, oh shit, this is going pretty fast now.
I need somebody to drive this thing up here for me.
Yeah, like you don't realize you're like, oh, this is the slowest moving deal ever, and then all of a sudden there's like 12 cars left, and you're like, oh shit, the whole event.
Yeah, that's it. I used to do that in my small tire days, man. There's a bunch of 1320 videos out there with my Mustang, and we would run 2 classes pretty consistently. And like Streetcar Takeover, we'd run Street Racer and the small tire 8th mile deal. And, I won both of them probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 times at least. And that's how it was,
They had so much overlap on those classes.
Yeah.
That it's crazy. It's crazy that those events had so much overlapping classes where cars like you could run multiple different classes, because that's not even a thing at the race this weekend. Like you could fit like what is it, like the time trials as well.
Something,
but that's about it. Like you're not overlapping into anything else.
No.
That's always funny that they had that. But again, it's car count. You're trying to get the car count up, and somebody with a fast car comes along and can just drive through the whole field.
Yep.
It happens pretty frequently.
Yep.
Have you thought about putting a radial on that car? And
I don't think it would work. I'd love to. Radial racing's cool. No, that my car with these wheelies and stuff, it's weight bias is the problem. So I really
that heavy in the back where you can't move weight forward?
No, I mean I run my fuel cell in the rear, which I know a lot of people. I mean, really, in the level that I'm at, nobody does that. It's a safety thing for me. I'm kind of weird. That's like one thing that just sticks out in my mind, because you see people crash, and it's not even a bad crash that catches on fire. And I've been in 3 wrecks in this car, and I could say at least 2 of them would have started a fire if I had the fuel cell in the front. So, I know that methanol burns off really quick, and you don't hold a lot up there. So, the potential of it being a big fire is a little smaller, but it makes me nervous. So, but even with that, I've only got 36 pounds of fuel in the back. There's like 6 gallons. So it's not a whole lot, but the engine is 4 inches back from like a factory location. And the front of a Nova is really short and stubby. So I think that, that's a big problem. And my car with no weight in it is probably like 51% on the rear. So, I mean, that's a problem with a radial.
Yeah. I wouldn't be super happy. You'd have to, like all the radial cars are real long nose, weight way up in the front. Even James's Nova is always wheelied on a radial.
Yeah.
But he's also leaf spring. So.
Well, you need like 56% probably is a good average to run a radial, and I'm a long ways from that.
There's a weird balance though. Once you get too much, it almost like blows the tires off all the time.
Yeah, you need a perfect track then.
Yeah, you need the perfect track and also the perfect weight bias. You don't want to be too far. The fuel thing's interesting because like my car, it's a street car. I keep 15 gallons in the trunk.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fuel if a line busts and it's on fire.
Yeah.
It's a scary amount of fuel.
Yeah.
Even 5 gallons in the back is nice, because I was going to say, like, if you keep, 10 gallons of methanol back there, it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
But just a couple gallons is a safety precaution. And anytime you see somebody hit the nose, it's always like a big fire. Plume of methanol fire right away.
Yep.
It's an interesting one, how to safely build a car, and then even where people put their fire bottles.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put one way up in the nose.
Getting right next to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Put your fire bottle all the way up there. They're pretty heavy, so you could add some weight like that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Even with the turbos all the way up there, I'm surprised, because they're like in the grill as far forward as can be.
Yeah, they're touching the front bumper. Yeah.
And you still can't get more weight on the front.
No.
Do you miss the Fox body then?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, that thing. I had a lot of fun. A lot different style of racing. But yeah, that car was definitely. I wouldn't say more fun, because I love how fast the Nova is and everything. But yeah, the Fox body, doing like Streetcar Takeover and stuff, was a lot of fun, and more of it was more convenient. There's a lot more events like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like give and take on both sides.
Does the level of person that come up to you and talk about your car change when it went from Fox body to Nova? Now you get a lot of old guys like, oh man, like love Nova, like,
Yeah, somewhat. I always try and I treat everybody good, and I feel like, a lot of people appreciate that. And so it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I'll get you get kids that come up and want to take pictures of the turbos, right? Like, I mean, everybody loves turbos and taking pictures of how big they are and all that stuff. But we get that, and then we'll get guys that come up and they're like, oh, and they want to show me pictures of their 67 Nova or,
oh yeah,
and so all that stuff's pretty cool. And, I think that the people are pretty much the same, except for the older guys appreciate this car, and they definitely don't the Fox body stuff. They just don't really care.
Yeah, they don't care about it. It's always funny because like you roll up with like a muscle car or like a Nova at the drag strip, and suddenly the older guys love that. Like my 4th gen, they kind of they're kind of indifferent to it. Like it's not really like it kind of missed a lot of that generation, but then like the older guys want to come and show photos of the Novas and stuff like that. It's so funny to see because even with me, sometimes they'll show like I have a 2J in my car and they'll come show me like, any import that they've ever seen and like at any point, or they'll come tell me how much faster I would be if I had more cubic inch. They like to do that.
Why don't you put an LS in that thing?
Yeah, they're like, oh, it just needs more cubic inch to go out and do better out the back. And I'm like, all right, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying my best here. It's 70 pounds of boost. Like, this is all I can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny the different people that come up depending on the car. And it's kind of nice because sometimes they just completely overlook my car because it's not nice looking at all. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough looking. It's a 300,000 mile 4th gen Camaro that was $800. So
no kidding. No,
it's not awesome, quite a clean red Nova.
Yeah.
With wheelie bars. Especially you had wheelie bars, man, and them old guys, they love that.
Yeah.
That's like
they do.
Because it kind of has like an old, what did they used to call that? Like Super Pro or something like that, where it was like an old class where they were stock looking cars, but then they had like a big meaty tire on there with like, you know what class I'm talking about?
Yeah, like
they
a lot of Pro Street and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it was like back in like the 90s and early 2000s, they had some classes like that.
Yeah, I could think of a few, like even, there's some that were called like Quick Street and Pro Street and
they were just like back half cars pretty much, but like factory everything else.
Yep, that's it, man.
All the magazine articles were written about all those cars and stuff, and there's like, they ran those tires that were huge. I can't think of them, but they had tread on them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
those
like the sportsman tires. Yeah,
yeah, and people love those sportsman deals. Yeah. It's so funny because you don't see them unless it's like a car show.
Yeah.
And they definitely wouldn't make it down the track. I don't think. Like they would just blow the tires off or spin or something stupid on those. And those are the ones that always end up spinning at the car show and ending up on their roof. I've seen quite a few of those because they catch any amount of water and they're so wide that they just end up just in the wall or something.
Yep. Yeah, you're right, man.
A lot of nice cars have been destroyed because of those tires, I want to say. It happens at the car shows down here pretty frequently because there's these old guys that have these big ass blowers, these dual carburetors that are just, everybody's getting smoked out when they start them up, and then they try to get on the throttle, and then they grab third gear almost immediately. And then down here, everything's wet every morning.
Really?
You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Every morning, everything's wet.
Yeah.
So you go to Cars and Coffee, and suddenly everybody's crashing. It's kind of our normal MO.
That's funny. Yeah.
You were talking about drag boats a little bit, though.
Yeah.
What's the story on that?
When I was a little kid, my dad, my uncle, and my grandpa always had V drives and jet boats with blown big blocks and all that stuff in there, And so I was around it when I was a little kid, and then as I got older, like I've had a couple of slower drag boats and got into it, but yeah, now I've got a.
What's a slower drag boat? How do you measure?
The first drag boat I ever had was a flat bottom. Pretty sure that boat was still a flat bottom, but had a small block Chevy in it. It'd probably go 60 miles an hour. It looked like it would go 100, but it wouldn't. And then my dad died when I was 13, and I got a couple of drag boats from when he was alive. And so I took those out, and one of them I still have, and it's what most people would probably call a fast boat. It might do 100, 110. It's got a 454 in it with like 150 shot of nitrous. And I mean, it's fast. It's a hydro style boat. I don't know how much you know about boats, but like a hydro.
Assume I know nothing.
Yeah. So like the pickle fork style, everybody calls them pickle forks. That's a hydro. And this one's it's a pretty light hull. It's a hydro that goes probably 110. I bet would probably be a safe number. But then 2 years ago, I bought a blown gas flat bottom, which like a hydro, they're faster and they're more stable. But a flat bottom is like a man's boat. Like that is like the small tire racing of drag boats, you know. And
do you measure it just in mile an hour? Like the power that it's making is just in how much mile an hour you can get out of it?
Yeah, you know, I don't race boats, so I don't know a lot of that side. It'd be like a streetcar guy coming to like a World Series of Pro Mod race. Yeah. So me and her just take our boat out to the lake, and we go scare the hell out of each other and everybody else, and
it's wide open.
Yeah, it's so like a flat bottom is very unstable and kind of unpredictable, and you have to use a pedal to control the plate on the back to keep the front end in the right spot. Otherwise, they try and fly up out of the water. So there's a lot more involved in driving.
So it's like it's just like a big flat metal plate out back to. How does that control the front at all then?
You use your left foot. So instead of having a brake pedal, you've got that thing over there and you push it down to drive the front of the boat down. And so then when you first launch it, you keep it all the way down and you floor it. And then there's like this balance where you have to come off of that pedal to keep the boat coming up out of the water. And then you have to maintain that certain position to where it has less drag because the flat bottom has a lot of drag. So you make the boat just kind of hover over the water with just the back in the water. And if it starts coming up too much, you have to push that pedal back down. And there's a lot to drive in those things. But in that boat, it's got a blown 565 in it with a 1071 blower. And it's got Holley EFI. And I mean, I bought this boat. I didn't build it. And the guy that I bought it from said it made 1,250 horsepower. And I believe it. Like we've probably been 130 in it, and on the lake, we don't race it or anything. And that's fast, man. Anybody that's ever been in a boat, especially like a flat bottom, 130 on the water is fast.
The only boats I've ever been around is Finnegan's on his lake up because Finnegan has a couple of boats similar to that where he has that same itch of has to have twin turbos or a Sonny's big block or something crazy like that. And I don't know what that itch is with the boat guys to make 1,800 horsepower. It seems crazy to me on a boat. Like I feel like it's any chop in the water. I feel like it's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, especially like a flat bottom. And I've seen one of Finnegan's boats. I don't know the other one that he's got. The turbo one that kind of blew up a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So that one's a jet. Mine are V-drive, and like a V-drive, to put it into comparison, like my V-drive at idle will go like 15 miles an hour probably, like somewhere around in there. You can't go slow. They just have so much more bite, and they're way more efficient than a jet. So yeah, you need to ride in a V-drive.
Is that where it's at?
Yeah, dude. Compared to a jet, like
what kind of do you have like legitimate lakes up there for doing that? Because it's just kind of
we just go like there's a lake probably 30 minutes from my house that we go out to, and you got to be careful because they don't like rough water, and you can't go fast when it's rough or anything. But yeah, I wish that there was more stuff because it's just like drag racing. There's not a lot up where I'm at because of the season and everything. But yeah, man, we'll have to make a video with you in a V-drive. You'll like that.
I would love to see that. Well, because growing up around the ocean, that kind of stuff wasn't really you couldn't have anything like that. You'd catch like the smallest wave and probably be 50 feet in the air trying to go that fast on something that has like no grip, I guess you could say, because it has just the flat bottom. I don't know how you can talk about grip on a boat, but I guess some have different grip than others, and something that fast will take flight. And I mean, I've seen a ton of videos. We have some big races down here, but it's those like big cigarette boats, and we do like legit circuit racing, not like those little, what is it, like 25 foot? How big is your boat?
Like 18.
18, yeah.
Yeah,
like
they're small.
Tiny, and the motor's probably 6 feet of it. So you just have like a little cockpit, I guess you could say, and then it's full open.
Yep. Yeah, 2 seats. And what's crazy about like a drag boat, whether it's a hydro or a flat bottom, when you're sitting in it, the highest point on the boat is like at the top of your thigh. So I mean, you're completely exposed to them, and like you don't realize how much faster that makes it feel or something until you're in it, and everybody says the same thing before they ride in, like, oh, you know what, let's go for a ride. And I tell them, like, hang on, it's going to scare you, all that stuff. And everybody thinks they can handle it. And then after the first time, they're like, holy crap.
Well, you're kind of just on top of it. You're not really in it. You're not really like a car you're in. Like,
you sit in a seat or something,
You're kind of just like sitting loosely on top of those.
Yeah.
It's never really, you don't feel super secure anytime I've been on one. And then I've been on a lot of airboats that have, big horsepower too. They use a lot of like airplane engines on those things though, because, it kind of just makes sense. But those things make 800 to 1,000 horsepower and the hulls weigh nothing.
Yeah.
But they catch air and fly all the time.
Yeah.
And there's no real keeping the nose down. You just have a stick for left and right, and you just turn the rudders, and that's it. That's kind of all you got is throttle and like a stick.
Yeah.
And then you hope that you have a slick enough bottom, because they like put special coatings on the bottom to where when you hit grass or something, you don't just stop. And you're not strapped in again. So you come to a dead stop.
Go fly.
You're going forward. But the airboats are kind of our Florida equivalent, I guess, of that, because it's not really a common thing in Florida, but it seems like a common thing in like the Midwest for you guys to have that style of boat.
Yeah, Missouri, Oklahoma, probably northern Texas. There's a lot of drag racing around there, and that carries over into lake boats too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that drag race their boats that go to the lake. That's a pretty cool area for it. But
like the Ozarks and stuff is one of the premier spots I see where people are putting their boats like 150 feet into the woods on accident and stuff. Every year,
those big ones.
Every year you see a picture of somebody with like a 8,000 horsepower boat, 200 feet into the woods, and they're just kind of like, oops.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's crazy. Drag boats are pretty fun though. That's the filler between drag racing to go get a speed rush. Drag boats.
There's always the thing of like when people stop drag racing, they do some other hobby like that. Like people are like, I'm done drag racing, it's too expensive, and then they start doing like something like that, and then it's like, well, you probably could have still been drag racing. Or like you get into side by sides really heavily, and then those are like $80,000 for a new side by side. So it's always one or the other. But you're out in Wyoming, so you probably have the mix of the off-road as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't do much of that. I used to race motocross a lot, and it's funny because I do that in the wintertime now, arena cross and all that. And everybody that I race with is always like, dirt bikes are expensive. Or you hear that at the races, and I'm like, man, I could race for 5 years what I spend on a weekend of drag racing.
You can pull the engine out like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And rebuild it or whatever.
Yeah.
I always envy the guys that show up with a motorcycle trailer, because they have like the motorcycle, they have like their whole, everything they need, tools, they got like a little sleeping quarters, and then it's like a 12-foot trailer.
Yeah, exactly,
You're so much smarter than me.
We joke about that a lot. Like, she goes with me racing arena cross, and like it's involved, I guess, but it is so much different. Like for an arena cross race, like I keep my dirt bike in the garage and we load it up and go racing. Like I don't have to work on it or nothing, change the air filter and the oil, and then at the races, we don't bring any tools in there, like nothing, man. It is so much different. And then get done and you go wash it and you put it up and it's ready for the next time. So
there's way more reasonable things to race than cars. But motocross, it's a lot more skill based than drag racing.
That part's pretty cool. I do like that.
You can put the same person in a drag car. You can put 10 different people in a drag car and the outcome's going to be similar. If not the same, if they're somewhat experienced drag racers. You nowhere near like that on a motocross. Which makes it interesting. But then it's also, I don't know how the spectatorship is at those. I know a ton of people that do it. I just don't know how much viewership it gets.
Nothing. And that's the problem. There's a lot more people that do it. And with it, I don't know, it's, motocross is something that I feel like, I don't want to say it's easier for people to be good at it. I guess probably the best way to put it is it's harder to be successful at it, because there's so many other people working to do it. And like drag racing, I guess success is measured differently, but, it's like the small tire stuff right now. everybody can promote themselves with Facebook and all that. And, you know, with dirt bikes, you can't really do that. I mean, it's harder to do because there's not the exposure and stuff. So it's harder to be something in that world, you know?
I feel like there's like some legacy people that are famous, but there's nobody that's been like famous from it in the last like 5 years.
In dirt bikes?
Yeah. Everybody that's famous for dirt bikes has been famous since, 1996, basically.
Yeah.
Like the Ronnie Reynolds and people like them.
Yeah.
That are just legacy known, and now it's kind of just different.
Even like back in the day, like a lot of people remember Jeremy McGrath or Ricky Carmichael, and some of those huge names. And like right now, Jet Lawrence or, Cooper Webb, a lot of those names of the guys that are doing really good, nobody knows who they are unless they follow that stuff. And, back in the day, it's like you could wear a Jeremy McGrath jersey to Walmart and people are going to know who that is, Now they don't. So.
Even like Deegan's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another one.
It's just like the legacy names are so strong in that sport. I only know of Cooper Webb because there's only so many Coopers in motorsports. There's like 8 of us. It's very, very small community of us.
Yeah.
So I try to keep up on all of them.
Heck yeah.
It's the small world of Coopers in motorsports. So
yeah.
But it seems cheaper to get into, but the risk of hurting yourself seems very high. Do you have to just know that there's going to be a potential broken leg or arm at some point, and you just have to commit to knowing that's going to happen? And if you feel like if you go in being worried about that, you're going to be slow.
Yeah, somewhat. I raced a lot when I was a kid, and then I quit racing for a while. And 2 years, actually, I think it was last season. Yeah, I think it was last season is when I started again. So I'm 2 years into it now. And, I ride the pro class. I'm not like, I'm nothing like Deegan or any of those guys, but you have to really tune in your skills because, like, it's easy to be fast once you've been fast. But you're right. Like last year, I think I got hurt at every single race I went to. Man, I broke both my hands. I got like this huge hematoma in my leg that jacked me up. I hurt my ankle. And, I mean, there's all kinds of different things. I hurt one of my shoulders. And this year I've been fortunate. I hurt my right ankle, and that's about it. And, you have to really fine tune and be in that zone. So,
well, I think that's why Pastrana stopped riding pretty much.
Yeah,
it's just he hurt himself too many times. He's like all cars now.
Yeah, he probably can't move without squeaking anymore. Man, that poor guy.
Yeah, he's probably had so much hardware put in his body over the years. Like, it's just at some point you're like, okay, I can't keep hurting myself like this. And it sucks too because I'm sure there's been so many people that were rising career that end up with like a crazy injury because it's just guaranteed in that type of stuff. It's scary. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a good 2-wheel guy. I've always shied away from 2 wheels.
Yeah. As I get older, like I really enjoy that, but you're right. I guess that's part of being older too. You understand that. And then also our finances are a little bit different, so we can afford the cool stuff we couldn't when we were kids, Like,
the side-by-side racing is starting to take off a lot more, which is cool. I like watching like Nitro Cross kind of does like that level of off-road racing. It's kind of growing now. And then there's a couple different like Ultra 4 and different kind of series that race that, which is kind of the safer version, I would say, for those same guys that want to do the same like jumping and door-to-door racing. It's kind of like the same kind of person, I guess, could do those two things.
Yep. Yeah, I wish that we had more of that again in Wyoming, man. We don't have anything, and that's what's really cool about this part of the country is there's a lot of other people that do that, so there's sanctioning bodies and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, what's the main deal up in Wyoming? Because my grandpa used to always go every year to Wyoming and Montana because he was a ranch guy. He wanted to go for when they would move the cattle.
Yeah. Every
year he would go do that, and that was like his thing. And that was all I ever knew of that area. Was like, oh, he goes up there every year to move cattle around. It was just like his favorite thing. I was like, okay, it seems fun.
Yeah. We, Wyoming, that's what a lot of it is. I think a lot of people are very, ignorant to what Wyoming is. And, they picture it being like this old behind the times place. I mean, it's really not, but it's those types of things is what people do there. We have a lot of ranching. A lot of people go snowboarding, skiing, stuff like that, fishing, and then hunting is huge in Wyoming. And, we don't have a ton of motorsports. It's crazy, the town that I live in, It's about 100,000 people with the little surrounding towns. I think we have to be the biggest town in Wyoming, and
That's a pretty big town, though.
Yeah, and like we have so many talented people for our population that it's crazy that we don't have more. Just in the town that I live in, there's probably 4 or 5 of us that can say we've accomplished something in motorsports, and I think that's huge. And that's what is really hard for us that are there, is we don't have the resources that everybody else does. So for us to go out and do something like, say, if I go out and I set like a 10.5 tire record or something like that, there's so much more that goes into it that people don't understand, because we don't have the resources. Like, here, if we had a 10.5 car and kept it at your house, we would, go to Bradenton and go test and do all that stuff, and we could be really good at it. For us, we got to drive 4 hours to our closest track to test. So if we show up and we need a converter change and we don't have it, we've spent 3 days to go find that, instead of 30 minutes. So
that's crazy too, because you got to be prepared that anytime you take that car out, you're going far from home.
Yep.
Like that's a crazy commitment.
Yeah.
Like even me thinking, because I got TX2K coming up in a couple weeks, and that's like 16 hours or 18 hours away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's such a freaking trip. It gets so expensive, and like,
yeah,
you have to just be fully committed to doing that every time the car goes out, and that takes a lot of commitment. That's tough. That's very tough.
It is. It's
even
hard.
like the East Coast of the U.S., which is just as far, if not farther than Florida, has all the good racing. Like up and down the coast, like from Cecil County all the way to like Bradenton is like the best racing, I would say, in the country.
Yeah.
I know some people in Texas don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
but
it's true, man.
it's true. I mean, you go South Georgia, it's Cecil, Maryland, MIR. Like those are where all the best racing happens.
Yeah.
And now there's even a little bit in Louisiana is kind of popping up a little bit more, but
yeah,
it's all far.
Yeah.
And even from me, it's pretty far to go up in the Northeast area, but it's a big country. It's kind of a tough one.
It is. Yeah,
it would be cool to leave your car down here, but again, like there's not that much 10.5 in Bradenton, not yet.
Yeah, and that's what's hard too, because like where I'm at, I do a lot of big tire stuff. I quit running the 10.5 stuff because of it going away also, and even our 10.5 point series with a steel roof and quarters car, you could run a big tire, and so we switched over to a big tire just to give us that edge against the pro mod type cars. There was one guy that up there, they let him into 10.5 to help with car count, because that series was struggling to even survive, because there's just not very many people that wanted to do it, and we had to do that to stay competitive, and so now we race a lot of big tire stuff. But the problem with that is if I come out here and try and run big tire no time, man, there's guys that that's all they do, and they have a lot of money in different programs, so I wouldn't be near as competitive if I did that. So I'd have to go to something like 10.5 where I could fit the rules with everybody else and be on the same playing field. So
even that doesn't happen that much. There's not a whole lot of big tire stuff in Bradenton to begin with. It's such a radial focused area, and even no time stuff doesn't really happen that often down here, or street stuff. I mean, you're talking about a little bit of street stuff.
Yeah.
By you, like we don't. Maybe I just don't get invited.
Well,
we don't have any real street stuff.
Yeah, you guys have the tracks and stuff, and I'm sure that's a lot of the driving force behind that. And everybody with the street outlaw stuff likes to be, oh, I'm street. I mean, there's some guys that's what they live for, and I think street racing is really fun. But if there's a track and there's an event, whether it's a big one or a small one, I would rather go do that, because with street racing, it's really dangerous, and I'm definitely not afraid to do something like that, but it becomes that point where it doesn't make sense or not, and if there's tracks to race out, I'd rather go do that,
It's the time thing too. Like you show up at 2 a.m., unload your car to make a pass instead of like just get to the track and unload, and like it seems crazy to be moving around spots and like running away from the cops when you have like a 30-foot trailer.
Yeah,
like it's one thing when you have like a street driven car, it's like, okay, I'll drive to the next spot, but when you have like a rig and a trailer and a team and like a whole deal, it seems like a lot to try to bounce around.
Yeah, and like for me, I mean, a lot goes into it. And I used to street race, and a lot of it was because I didn't have a track to go to, and the level of racing changes. You know, like those guys that street race, you know, I might get blown up for saying this stuff on here, but you know, they're not that fast. You know, a lot of guys will hide behind a surface because they're not fast.
Yeah.
You know, there's some small tire guys in like Oklahoma that I know, and you know, in other areas that they're fast, and I know they can go to a track and do well, but you know, most of these guys that go around boasting about how they're street racers and all that, they do that because they're hiding from the guys that are fast.
A lot of no-time guys in general,
Yeah.
I think, get like aren't that fast, so they just turn the boards off.
Yeah.
And then they can kind of grudge and, you know, pretend that they're faster than they are.
Yeah.
Just because they'd rather not, you know, expose the mystery, I guess you could say. Same with street, like
Yeah.
you're not as fast as you want to pretend you are. And it just kind of is the nature of the beast in a little bit on that. Yeah. But then you could just put a radiator in the car and go do a drag and drive.
I thought about it. Yeah, I did, man. When
a bigger fuel cell, radiator.
Yeah, I thought about doing that, and you know, it'd be fun, but I'd probably build a different car for it. To be honest, I don't know. It's tough. I'd really like to do that, and I think that those guys that do it, you know, hats off to them, because it takes a lot to make it through that. And like, so, you know, some guys at home like Darce Laws and Vince Murphy and Sean Fink and Jason Sack. Like that's what I was saying with Wyoming. You know, we have a lot of talent, and guys that do like, especially the drag and drive stuff. Those guys I just mentioned, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but you know, those guys, they're good at it. And it's crazy because where we live, you know, we don't have the resources like we were talking. Yeah. And, you know, then they go do like Rocky Mountain Race Week or Sick Week, and you know, they do really well at it. And it's pretty cool.
I think it leads a lot to the people that don't have a local track, because instead of like you just come down here for 1 week, like, you know, at the same track, you come down here for like a full week of racing where you go track to track, and it more of an experience if you're not always near the track. Like same with like Rich Guido comes down from Canada, and he just does these drag and drives because he gets like all of his fill of drag racing in like 7 days, you know, 5 different tracks instead of, you know, 2 months of traveling to different tracks. You kind of accomplish the whole thing all at once almost. And then you don't, at least with me, anytime I've done one, I don't even want to look at my car for a month. I'm like, I don't want to sit in that thing. My back hurts. Like I'm done with that car for the moment. The Race Tech seat would probably help a lot. Those seem pretty comfortable.
That thing's a lifesaver, man. Yeah.
The Kirkies are literally lifesavers from what I've seen. The Kirkies are a little questionable when you start going that fast.
Yeah. I've wrecked, like I was telling you, I wrecked my car 3 times, man. And you know, I did like big tire stuff. Everybody always talks about tire shake, rattling your teeth out and everything. That Race Tech seat, like I could rattle a 34.5-inch tire, and I mean, it rattles and breaks stuff on the car, but it never makes me uncomfortable. And that seat's pretty cool. Yeah,
you do seem hard on stuff. You said you wrecked the car 3 times, 3 different cars, or same car 3 times?
Same car, man. Yeah, I got it done. I don't remember what year that was, 20 or 21, and raced one time, and then I took it down to Texas to test, and you know, I think it rattled the tires. Honestly, I think I was green enough on a big tire. I didn't realize what happened, and smashed the front end on it. And then I wrecked it in Douglas, that little track in Wyoming, from that dipstick tube coming out, and the car just got away, and I went out and hit like a concrete block that was in the grass.
What track in Texas?
Was
it Texas?
Wichita Falls. Yep. And then the one in Douglas, and then I wrecked at No Prep Kings in Denver 2 years ago. And that one was just, I made a mistake. I pedaled the car and should have never done it, you know. And
what class were you running there?
Big tire,
Big tire still?
Yeah,
because I guess they've already announced their schedule again for this coming season. I don't know how their classes work at all, but
it's invitational, and like we got invited to do it. But in order to do it, I've been invited. I haven't gotten an invite this year, but this year's a little weird with them. And I think the 2 years before that, you know, they reached out and asked if I could make it. And man, I can't afford it, you know, but I could. So if you're invited, you could run invitational, or if you show up, you can just run big tire, which is anybody can enter it. There's no rules. And then the first round losers of invitational can jump into it. So you still get to race some of the bigger name guys and you know, do well. But yeah, man, in that big tire class, I was racing David Gates, and we both left, and my car was wheeling and going towards the center. So I lifted, and normally, I make good decisions, I feel, where I'll lift and be done. But then I heard him get off the gas. It was a nitrous car. So I was like, man, I can still win this round. And I think we were in the semifinals. We were pretty far into the round, so there was a lot on it, Mm-hmm. And I heard him get out of it, so then I got back on it, and my car was just completely upset, and I started swapping, and I ended up over in his lane behind him, thankfully, and almost collected it, man. I went probably an eighth of a mile going all over the mm-hmm. track, and then clipped the wall with the rear end a little bit, and then right at the end just nosed into it. But
the nitrous cars are interesting because they can't, a lot of them don't have their cars set up to pedal it that well because mm-hmm. they have a nitrous timer. And then once, they're off the gas, it's the timer resets and it's done.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just on motor at that point where, a turbo car, you can kind of get back into it. I don't know how well your turbo's lit.
Yeah.
After you're kind of in and out of the gas like that. Yeah. Mine's always been pretty good, but some kind of take a while and they're kind of duds at that point once you're off the gas.
Depends on where you're at in the run for me. I was actually working with my wheelie control this weekend, and it's the same philosophy, when that wheel is spinning whatever 1,000 RPM it is, the inertia of it, even when you dump the gas, that wheel's still spinning really fast. So they recover pretty well.
What do you use for wheelie control? Do you have a laser height sensor or?
Davis VPS. I use the pitch in that, and dude, that thing's awesome, man. I love that.
Yeah, they work pretty awesome. I didn't know if you were using a laser sensor. Those work pretty well, too, for giving data, depending on what ECU you run. Some of the fuel tech guys like to use the laser sensor. So the Holly guys like to use the Davis, but then you end up with two laptops out, and you're kind of doing two different things, two different programs, two different tune files. It adds a lot, it seems like.
Yeah. I use Holly and Davis, and it's funny you say that because you don't have to have two laptops. You have to have the program, but I do have two laptops.
It seems like the normal move. Anytime I see a lot of the high level tuners, it's usually two laptops, one for the Davis box and then one for the Holly.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it's like that, but and I think that fuel tech, I feel like they had a lot of issues, and fuel tech definitely has their strong points, and they're good at what they do, and there's a lot of really good people running it. But man, I always love Holly, and with the VPS, with the wheelie control and stuff mixed with the Davis, it works really well.
Yeah, Shannon Davis seems like he's really helpful with his stuff as mm-hmm. well. So once you kind of get it and he helps you dial it in, it seems like it works really good. And then Holly's so freaking user friendly. It's you open it up and you're everything's in color, colored in with a little turbo button and stuff. It's like wait, is this meant for kids? No, it can't be. It works so good though. I mean, some of the fastest cars ever are on Holly. A lot of people lately start to give it more shit, which is weird because it's at the same level as every other ECU. They've mm-hmm. just been at the same level for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed a whole lot.
Yeah, you're right.
But even with traction control stuff, some people can do it with just advanced tables, mm-hmm. which I've seen some people kind of get away with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can.
I'm not smart enough of a tuner to understand it all, but I know a lot of people have done that as well. But maybe on a radial tire, it's a little different.
Yeah, and I think if you were to try and duplicate the Davis stuff with tables and Holly, I think it would be so complex that it's one of those things that it's just spend the money on Davis. And I'm really big with my program to, I use the things that are designed that way, with the traction control. I feel like Davis is traction control.
Yeah.
So I use that for that. And then, the VPS that's a sensor. I use advanced tables to make wheelie control. I don't use the Davis wheelie control. And that Shannon helped me with that, so I thought that was really cool that it wasn't that he was pushing his wheelie control on me so hard. He said, you can do it this way or you can do it this way. Here's how you do them both ways. And the using the wheelie control in the Holly just made more sense to me. And, once I get to an event, I really don't mess with my Davis. I download the drive shaft data off of it so that I can change my profile if I need to. But doing it all on Holly is definitely the way to go.
I will say, I don't know if your car is the best advertisement for wheelie control.
It's cool that you said that because I'm going to put some content out about that. This weekend was a little out of hand, but it was functioning and it was doing everything that I told it to do. So the chassis tune was just so far off that, it was hard. And
it just happened too fast and was just too powerful of a wheelie to really tame down. Yeah. So I wanted to say in the beginning, I'm probably going to, pull one of those videos of it wheeling and put it when we're talking about it at the beginning, overlay it, because it's something worth seeing. Yeah. Watching the chutes. Were the chutes on a button or auto deploy?
Yeah, I pull them with a lever.
You pull them with a lever. So that's worth watching, the chutes dragging the ground as the wheelie comes through. It's worth seeing the video.
Yeah. Well, and like a good thing on that wheelie control too is like have you seen the video of my wheelie from Vegas that went viral?
Yeah, in the dark, that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that one that's a good way to show that wheelie control, because that one it rode the wheelie control, and instead of it getting high enough that the car started catching air, it just kind of kept it right there. So here in Bradenton, that big wheelie, I don't remember what we ran for boost out the back, like 50 pounds or something, whatever the turbos were making, and I really shouldn't have had it in there like I did. And so the wheelie control just couldn't kill it enough. And then it's like, when you stick your hand out of a car window going down the road, once you get to a certain point, it tries to peel it back, and that's what happened.
Yeah, you're more mile an hour under the car.
Yeah.
Just wind pushing on the bottom of the car at that point. The aerodynamics are not even a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a GoPro in the car that one run I didn't have it on, and it sucks because it would have made such a cool video. But like when it came up, you can't see it in the video, and it's crazy too because of how major it seemed in the car. But when I went through the finish line, like the hood and everything was catching air. It was all bubbled up. It cracked both sides of my fenders and stuff, But I'm gonna make a TikTok with that one. It would be pretty cool. But
well, that's how those no prep cars end up like blowing the whole front end off or like flipping backwards, because they get so much air and then it gets under the car.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any sort of belly pan or anything, it's just even more air under the car.
Yeah.
Like under the nose of the car.
Yeah.
You almost need some vents just to let that air out.
Little flappers up there.
Yeah, like some NASCAR style vents on the hood.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Dang, well, freaking crack the fiberglass on it.
Yep.
That's a lot of air pressure.
It is. Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know how high my hood was, because I just, picturing it was just heaved up in the middle, and I just have like a 2-inch cal hood. So
that's why it looked like a radial tire race a little bit as well, because radial tires also fly out. Sometimes over the wall. They end up just airborne right over it, kind of like a little kickflip almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
there's been some scary radial stuff, but where can people find you at, man? This was fun.
Yeah, Facebook, Lance Knigge on Facebook, and I have a page for the car. It's the King. That page I've struggled with traction, so I appreciate anybody that'll jump on there and follow that one. With these videos going around, my Facebook has blown up this last week, but friend requests and stuff. So anybody watching, I hope that they'll follow me instead of friend requests. Yeah, because I can't accept any more friend requests, so it's not really doing anything. So, follow my page. TikTok, I'm trying to get that off the ground, so that's pretty cool too if people jump on there. And
I'm sure the TikTok will ban those videos as soon as they go up. They'll be like, it's dangerous activities.
Yeah, it's crazy too. Like I looked the other night, man, that thing had like 2.7 million views the first night. So it is like blowing up. And, I hope that some of that traction carries over to my social media. So
I'm glad you got some of the views, not just everyone else.
Man, I didn't get many though.
Yeah, I know, because that happens. And I see like random people just sharing like a cell phone video of a TV getting like 1,000 shares, and I'm like, oh man, freaking sniped his video.
That's exactly what happened. And the good thing is they announced my name in it, in the video. But the downside of that is most people don't even listen to videos anymore. They watch it and they're seeing it and it's a view, but they're not listening to it. And I've had people tag me in it or message it to me and all that stuff and ask if it's me. And it's like, if you would just turn the sound on,
Yep.
But yeah,
that's a shame. Well, I'll put things in the description as I can. Make sure you send me everything to put in the description so people can follow you and check out the car and keep up with it. But that'll do it, man. Thanks for coming on. This was really fun. I know you got a long trip back.
32 hours.
Man, no racing You stop on the way back, you just ride back.
I don't know. Maybe we'll change the plans and have to go test
Find
somewhere.
something. Yeah, I feel like because you're already this far down, you got to stop somewhere and try to race or something.
Heck yeah.
Good deal, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, thank you.
That'll
I
do
appreciate
it.
you having me.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.